Hello and welcome back to the Meraki Unboxed podcast. We are officially in January and in full swing, and we have some awesome guests it's going to be a little bit different today taking us through the podcast. We're talking to a partner and a reseller based in England, and I'm really excited about this story and highlighting this amazing school and this amazing partner that did some awesome work with Cisco Meraki. But before I do that, of course, I'm going to give us the spiel. Download, subscribe, listen to the Meraki Unboxed podcast. We are always looking for our listeners to contribute. And if you have great ideas, please let us know. We would love to work with you. And per usual, I'm Sammy Brenner taking you through today. So I mentioned this before. We've got a customer and a reseller joining us, and I'll get to intros in a second. But a little bit of background. So the Forest of Dean Trust, otherwise known as the Trust, is based in England, and the school supports over 1,100 students. The Trust delivers engaging, modern learning experiences and really strongly believes that equipping their students with the necessary skills to excel and make a difference in their future. Not only does the Trust take future thinking approach when it comes to their teaching, but with the technology supporting their schools as well. So the Trust ended up partnering with Redway Networks to deliver on the goal of future-proofing its technology, and they went with a full-stack Meraki solution. So we're talking Wi-Fi, switching, firewalls, physical security camera. Very cool story. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Lee Hayes from Redway Networks and Emily Signet, who's the IT manager for Forest Dean of Trust. Welcome to the Meraki Unboxed podcast.
Hello, Sammy. Thank you.
Thank you. It's good to meet you.
Wonderful to meet you too. So let's go ahead and waste no time and jump into the episode. This is the first time actually I'm walking through a story with a reseller and the end customer on the call. And I was telling you both before, I come from the public sector space and sell into schools. So this will be near and dear to my heart. Let's start with Emily. So tell us about the challenges you had to face within your network. How did you discover Redway Networks? And I guess, how did you discover Meraki as a potential solution?
Yes, it's a really interesting story. I think one of the things that education in England has quite significantly is they generally have a very small ICT team with quite a wide breadth of knowledge. And what we were finding is that as well, because schools in the UK struggling kind of financially at the moment, that we were tending to have a lot of IT equipment and networking equipment that was out of date and not really fit for purpose anymore, and it wasn't really allowing us to kind of innovate within teaching in the classroom. And what we really wanted to do was kind of put a focus on IT in the classroom and how students were interacting and how students were able to take what they were learning in the classroom with the technology provided and then kind of take it home. And so one of the things that we were really excited about moving forward with was a one-to-one device scheme within our school, so that students were given Chromebooks and were taking them home and learning at home on these Chromebooks and then bringing them into school and using them in the classroom. But with that kind of project going forward, it presented us with some quite considerable infrastructure challenges in that our Wi-Fi system, I was really worried about things like our Wi-Fi system having a large increasing devices trying to connect to it. And I mean, then it comes back down to the fact that our switches were really quite old, and there was all these different things kind of going on, and it really kind of, I really felt that we needed to, I suppose, bolster our infrastructure before we basically started hitting it with all of these new devices and all of these kind of things that we wanted to do in the classroom to enrich students' learning. And so I kind of stumbled across Redway by sheer fluke, really. As part and parcel of this process, I was looking for suppliers that would basically kind of, well, give me some ideas about what was out there, because I think we had kind of like the bog standard, this is what every education establishment uses and this is what every education establishment does. But me and my situation and moving the school forward didn't really want to do the standard, if that makes sense. We wanted to do something a little bit different, something that would make the students' learning better, and also from kind of like my team's point of view, make our jobs a lot easier. Especially because we're kind of like a group of a couple of schools that are across 3 sites. And so one of the big challenges we also had was administering that network across multiple sites. And so from kind of like stumbling upon Redway by sheer fluke, I kind of got talking to them, and we built the relationship from there, in that a lot of other providers out there kind of like had ideas, but they didn't really kind of fit in with the vision that I had. And that was something that I really appreciated with Redway, that they were very customer focused, so that they wanted to really understand kind of what we were looking for and help us achieve that goal, even though I hadn't necessarily formulated what I wanted. I just kind of had a goal in mind, but wasn't really sure how to get there. And so what they really did was help kind of me along that path and formalize, I suppose, that vision into a plan. And well, Meraki was the solution that they came up with, and it was the one that ticked all the boxes for us.
Right. Got it. Okay. Thank you for explaining that. I mean, I think you're in the same boat with a lot of schools, right? This idea of hybrid work and the pandemic hits, and we have Chromebooks, and how are the students going to learn on campus and off campus, and all these new devices, right, hitting our network. How is our network infrastructure going to support all this? So yes, I echo your sentiment, and I feel like so many other folks supporting schools networks, Emily, have the similar struggles. So Lee, this is, I think, a great segue to ask you, based on those challenges, how and why, I guess, did Meraki surface as the best solution for the school? And what was compelling for you as a reseller, kind of positioning Meraki for your education clients? Talk to us about that.
Yeah, sure. So for me, it's I'm showing my age, and I've seen teams over the years decrease in size due to budget restraints. And for me now, it's quite important to deliver a solution that small teams can manage and bring lots of technologies into one dashboard. I feel that we're really showing good value within schools with this proposition, and it's supporting our teams. So if demands come from SLT or any other leaderships within the school to deliver certain services, we can take all of those concerns away. Because in the past, people have come to us and said, we need to deliver one-to-one learning and other services, but we don't have the infrastructure to support that. But with Meraki, we've implemented these solutions. They can last up to 10 years, and we can take all of those concerns away. So for us as a reseller in education in the UK, Meraki hits the spot every single time.
Amazing. And Lee, let me ask, do you manage the network on the behalf of the school, or did you just kind of sell the devices and help them create?
No, the school manage their own network. We can completely hand over the solution once it's all configured by ourselves, and we can completely hand over to the school to run themselves.
Got it. Awesome. That's fantastic. So the initial kickoff for the school was, kind of a wireless and switching upgrade. And then Meraki MX and Systems Manager kind of came down the line. Emily, talk to me a little bit about the issues that I guess led to the initial upgrade, and then kind of the iterations, right? First it was switching and then wireless. Why did you expand past those two portfolios?
Yeah, definitely. So I think one of the big things for me was that we were expanding as an organization. So we started off as Dean Magna School, so it's a secondary school, and then we gained a sixth form, but that was at a different site 10 minutes down the road. And then on top of that, we gained a primary school. again, 10 minutes down the road. So I think already we were finding that my team and I were very stretched, because anything that we needed to do with regards to the infrastructure, we 9 times out of 10 needed to travel to those sites. And although kind of those sites were quite close, actually what we wanted to do might have been kind of like only 10 minutes, 15 minutes, or even sometimes half an hour, but we were having to spend that time traveling backwards and forwards. The second thing was the kind of like the expansion, the future plan that we had for educating our students, in that, as I kind of previously mentioned, the one-to-one device schemes. We were also trying to get a bring your own device scheme kicked off for our sixth form students. And so we were finding all of these things were quite difficult to, I was first off quite initially worried about the increase in devices that we had on our network, with hardware, switches, firewalls, etc., that weren't necessarily spec'd out for that kind of traffic. But then on top of that, I was concerned about the increase in challenges in managing multiple sites. So I think for me, the switching was the key thing first, mainly because we had lots and lots of different switches. And so I think I did the maths, and we had like 20 different types of switches across all of our sites, which, although you kind of think switches are sort of the same, they have different kind of like user interfaces, different ways of doing something. And so every single time one of my team was interacting with one of these switches, we almost had to learn how to do it again and again. And it was just really difficult, to put it bluntly. And so for me, that was a big thing, really uplifting our network infrastructure, putting in a solution that I knew we could expand on if the organization expanded in the future, but also a solution that would be able to, really condense that down into one type of platform where we could effectively see our entire estate and manage it centrally. Not really dependent on kind of being at one particular location. And so that's kind of why we initially kicked off with the switching and the wireless, because it would achieve those particular goals. It would enable us to manage our infrastructure, and it would enable us to kind of expand forward kind of in a way that was where our vision was going. And then kind of leading on from that, I looked at other solutions with regards to kind of like firewalls like Sophos and other solutions out there. But one of the big things that really kind of drew me to Meraki was the auto VPN solution, and the ability to effectively just go, right, okay, here's a firewall, put it into this particular site, and then you automatically get a VPN to all of those different sites. Because we have a lot of staff and students traveling from one site to another, especially our sixth form. They go back and forward, and having that kind of like ease of being able to use your computer in one area and then go and get your network in another when you've got your physical servers at a different site was really beneficial to us. And having kind of like that auto VPN solution that would effectively keep everything up and running for us without really worrying too much about it dropping off unless there was a power cut was really beneficial. And then once we'd kind of got those solutions in place, it kind of, when we started looking for other things that were cropping up that we needed, so for instance, we had a lot of iPads that hadn't really been managed successfully in the past that I really wanted to get control over, and look from a security perspective, making sure that we had the ability to do things like lock them out if they were taken off site and stuff like that. It kind of just made sense to enable it all to go into one dashboard. And so that's where we really enjoyed going down, I suppose, the systems manager route, and then as well the the CCTV route as well, to be able to have everything that we needed in one place, in one central location that we could effectively manage from anywhere.
Mm-hmm. Right. Makes sense. And you'll hear that a lot. I think that idea of we have multiple campuses, we have teachers and staff, and Emily, you called this out, right? We're going back and forth between campuses all day. Connectivity, staying online, seamless integration, one single platform. Like my mouth dropped when you said we had 20 different kinds of switches.
Literally.
That's right. That's insane. And so streamlining and making it easy. But the thing is, you are not probably unique in your experience. I think this is a lot of schools, right? Over time, collect all these, this different gear, and then they have a disjointed kind of network. So streamlining and getting to a single portfolio and that dashboard experience, it's so wonderful to hear you talk about how seamless it is now, because that is the main selling point, right? It's, your firewall, your switching, your wireless, all under a single pane of glass. Let's transition a little bit. I mean, I'm sure we're all aware here in the U.S., a lot of schools are talking about physical security, right? And making sure their campuses are up and running and their network is healthy, but also if there was an intruder that came on campus, or, the police department or the fire department had to pull footage quickly, they can do that, right, if there was an emergency. So that's something that a lot of schools are talking about right now. And it sounds like this was always, an important concern for your school as well. So how did Emily, and then I'll ask you, Lee, a little bit about cameras deployments as well. But Emily, how did the MV cameras meet your physical security needs? What stood out to you about them? And talk to us about that process for you.
So, yeah, definitely. So we had a very old CCTV system as well, and there'd been a couple of off-site incidents that meant our leadership team, our head in particular, was quite concerned about the quality of the camera footage that we were getting from our old CCTV equipment. And we'd also had a couple of incidents where we had kind of like police come on site and ask us for footage from our CCTV cameras and things along those lines, which was actually quite awkward, because when we pulled it up, you really couldn't see anything. So I think when we were looking at CCTV solutions, one of the main things for us was that we would be able to see in the dark as easy as we could see in the day, that it would be very easy to manage, very easy to kind of like install them. And from our site team, they wanted an app. That was their one criteria. They wanted an app. And so we started kind of looking out there at what solutions were being offered. And all of the solutions that we were coming across required us to effectively upgrade our, I don't know the technical term, but basically our CCTV physical recording box that we had on site, because we didn't have enough ports in it, basically. And when it came to it, I was just looking at it from the perspective of kind of like, well, 5 years down the line, are we going to have to upgrade this box again, or something along those lines? And so what I really, really liked about the Meraki MV solution was that you didn't need any of those peripherals. It was just, you had a camera, you could put it up, you could add it to your dashboard, and it just worked. And I think I've never honestly opened a box and set something up as easily as I did one of the MV cameras. We literally just plugged it in and it worked. And then our site team drilled a few holes in various locations and then just stuck them on the wall. That's probably it probably sounds a bit more simplistic than it was, because we still needed to get cabling in and everything, but it really just worked. And so initially we were just looking at it from kind of like the ease of management, the fact that our site team and other people could have access to the cameras to keep track of our site in the evenings and at other times during the day when people weren't necessarily on site. but kind of like as we've got integrated it more within in what we're doing, and how we're monitoring our site, we've found that we're using more and more aspects of it. So for instance, one of the things that our site team really like about it is that they can set kind of like the cameras to alert them to if it detects humans on site out of hours and things like that. And one of the things that I really like about it as well is that we found that actually as after we put in the solution, that we could give the people who needed access to the CCTV access to it, which is something that we'd never really done before. It all come through the ICT team. Whereas kind of going forward, I said, well, why don't you just have access to the CCTV? Because we can set the dashboard to just give, say, like our head access to it, or our safeguarding lead access to it, or the person who looks after the site access to it. And it made the ability, well, it made, pause there, it made it a lot easier for everybody to do their jobs when it came to monitoring the site, monitoring what was happening out of hours, what was happening in hours, even in sometimes, and just who was accessing the site and who should be there and who shouldn't be there. I think those are really our key points when it came to the MV cameras.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Echoing so much of what you said, right? We hear schools say this all the time. You don't realize a camera is offline, or maybe the video quality is poor until an incident happens on campus. And then you go back and look and the quality's not there, or the camera was offline and there was no way to alert. So it's just amazing that you're hitting on these key points of simplicity and it just working and spinning up the cameras quickly. I know you mentioned we had to add cabling, but they really do go up that quickly. They really do. It's such a seamless integration. So Lee, I mean, let me ask you this question: with other schools potentially, that you work with, were Emily's concerns, do you hear that echoed a lot in the market with schools who are looking for a physical security solution? And I guess same question to you, kind of why, compared to other camera solutions have you seen out there, why is Meraki your go-to, or, that simplified solution that you're making a recommendation on?
Yeah, for me, it's a simplified solution. One dashboard, again, ticks the boxes. We're seeing a huge increase in interest in adding Meraki MV into the solutions as well. A lot of people aren't aware that the solution actually exists. So we're doing a great job of telling people and repeating the story of the work we did with Emily. It's one of the concerns that has cropped up through many of these conversations is what happens if someone steals the camera? It's the good thing about if someone steals the camera, everything's in the cloud. It's so we haven't got to worry. It's if someone steals the physical controller of a traditional CCTV solution, we're lost. We're in trouble. It's all of that data and recording's gone with it out of the door. Nobody's going to really walk around a school and steal 10, 15, 20, 100 devices. It's going to be a heck of a job. So again, making it ultra secure for a school, which is really important. The ease of the deployments, again, with you, I can echo that. It's these solutions are great to deploy and hassle-free, and then adding them into that same dashboard again, it's really satisfying to see that these solutions are nice and easy to manage. So I think we'll see a great increase in the number of deployments that continue to go out in UK schools.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's such a good call out, right? That all the video footage is encrypted. So worst case scenario, even though they are extremely hard to actually get down, if someone were to get a Meraki camera, they can't access that footage. So thanks for calling that out. That's really important that video is safe and secure. We talked about this earlier. Lee, you called it out. IT faculty, staff at these schools, it's shrunk over the years, and educators are having, being asked to do more with less. I guess this question is for both of you in terms of what you're seeing with your customers, and Emily, what your life was like before Meraki. How much time were you spending troubleshooting, doing IT administrative tasks versus the time that you're having to do today with Meraki in place? What's the difference in your time management?
I think that there's a lot. I mean, I've seen a considerable difference within the time that my team and I spend troubleshooting things, and the time that we spend actually kind of doing our jobs. It's hard to sometimes put a figure on it, but I kind of float around this mythical figure of about 25%. But when I actually sat down a while back and started actually looking at how much time having the Meraki solution was saving my team, it probably wasn't far off. I mean, especially with our 10 switches, our 20 different switches, as I mentioned earlier. I think one of the biggest things for me with regards to saving time is I suppose the alerts you can do from Meraki, that you've got, we've said it quite a lot, but this one single central dashboard that shows you effectively the health of everything within your organization, regardless of where you are or what site you're on. But then also you can set up a lot of different kind of like alert scenarios. So I'll give you a really cool example. So Christmas, obviously, Christmas is a time when the school shuts down, the site shuts down. But during that time, we had a couple of significant power outages, which meant that basically there was issues within our site. And with the dashboard, I was instantly able to be alerted to the fact that actually we had stuff going on site, even though nobody had access. And actually, when we came back after the holidays, although we might not be able to have resolved it in the holidays, that something was going on, and then alert staff to the fact that actually we didn't really know what we were walking into because we couldn't get on site, but something was happening. And sort of start that troubleshooting process online. And so in reality, it wasn't a case of going in on the day that we came back and then kind of scratching our heads and going around panicking. We came in prepared. We came in knowing to an extent what we were walking into because the Meraki dashboard was giving us information. And that really kind of cool. Helped save the time it took to troubleshoot what was going on, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my gosh, that's a really awesome example, and thank you for sharing that. It just cuts the time, right? Something's definitely going on, you're getting an alert, and then once you're before you're even back on campus, you can be anywhere in the world as long as you have internet, trying to troubleshoot. Okay, power went out, what's going on? Are our switches online? So that's a perfect example that plays up Meraki's strength. Let's transition to talking about future-proofing. I think this is a big theme. A lot of schools have this front of mind. I want my network, future-proofed. I don't want to have to worry about this for, 5 to 7 years. I want to set it and forget it. You have now this world-class upgraded network. So what does the future look like for your school and for your campuses, and how has kind of Meraki transformed hybrid learning for the school?
Well, I suppose that common phrase, the future definitely looks bright. I think one of the key things is that we've been finding kind of recently, learning isn't just contained to the classroom. Learning is, learning is done at all times. Learning is done at home. Learning is done it's done on site, but it's done on trips. It can be done kind of like anywhere these days. And one of the big things that we were focusing on for the future is a means in which we can both expand the trust, but also provide quality education to our students and enable them to be innovative. And so it's not necessarily just about us as a school being innovative, it's about our students being able to be innovative. And I think having the Meraki solution, as you said, enables that in more ways than I can count. I mean, it gives us stability on site, but then it also gives us security off site, whether it be through kind of using Umbrella. I don't think I mentioned, but we also use your Umbrella kind of solution to deal with our filtering and firewall solution. So it means that whatever our students are doing, wherever they're going, they are safe and secure, but also they can be innovative. They can engage with technology in a way that, wow, the sky's the limit, quite literally. And I think that is kind of one of the big things for us. And I think that's where we're going forward. And one of the things I love about Meraki as well is just how easy it is to add anything, whether it is that you want another camera, whether or not it is that you want to expand the sites that you have and put another firewall over here or a switch over there. And I kind of say that flippantly, but it really is that easy to just say, okay, right, well, what are we doing? Where are we going? What do we need to get there? And the foundation is there to kind of chop and change as we move along this journey.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. Thank you for sharing that. And I agree, right? The sky is the limit. And I'm sure, Lee, I'll ask you this question, like, do you have, based on the amazing, incredible project that the Forest of Dean Trust has kind of undertaken and redone their network, do you have other schools reaching out to you in the area looking for examples of like, hey, show me a school who's transformed their network, or we have security concerns, do schools look for other schools like them before they endeavor in these big projects to do these upgrades? Do you have folks coming to you kind of asking for the same thing or facing the challenges that the Forest Dean of Trust was?
Yes, absolutely. And we're getting these calls and requests via our website all of the time. It's the same concerns, and yeah, it's a common interest, and people are facing the same concerns. And sorry, I'll pause there. Yes, we're receiving calls and emails all of the time via our website with interests at the moment. And a lot of the schools that we work with are very interested in talking to people like Emily to find out how we delivered and the success that was also delivered within those projects as well. It's so yeah, we have a lot of interest in delivering the same type of technology, and we're currently working on a numerous amount of projects with other schools all over the UK.
Awesome. Yeah. It's good to hear, right? That people are thinking about this, and schools want to have the best technology for their students. Because Emily, like you said, learning takes place not just in the classroom. So let's go ahead and tie this up. I'll ask one more question. Thank you both for being here today. It really means a lot, and I'm excited for other schools, other resellers, our customers, our Cisco Meraki family to hear your story and to get it out there. Maybe Emily, I'll toss this over to you. Any advice for those who are listening and they're inspired by your story, but maybe they're feeling like this is a big lift to redo my wireless, my switching, my overhaul the camera system. Schools are feeling maybe a little overwhelmed. What advice would you have for another customer out there that was in your boat before you started with this whole upgrade? If they came to you and asked, where would you start?
I think I would start with, I've been there. I think when we started this project, I definitely found it overwhelmed as well. I kind of sat there and went, oh my goodness, what am I getting myself into? This is going to be really stressful. There's so much to do. There's so many different things that we need to take into consideration. I think that's where Redway really kind of helped the school in particular, because I think they really sat down and got a good understanding of my needs and supported us through the process and guided us in kind of like things that I suppose I might not necessarily have considered or taken into consideration. I think one of the big pieces of advice I'd probably give though as well, in addition to that, is that it makes a big difference to the students, and it makes a big difference to the staff, and it makes a big difference to kind of like the education. And certainly with the Meraki solution, I can't say it enough, it just went in, it just worked. And from that perspective, I mean, there was a huge amount of worry, because I think as an IT professional, I've been in lots of situations where we've put in new hardware or new networking equipment, and we've then spent ages trying to work out why it's not gone in as smoothly as it should, or why something was going wrong. Whereas with the Meraki equipment, it just worked, which I had to take a step back and go, wow, wasn't expecting that. But I think so first, after kind of like initially kind of breaking it down into more manageable components, because although it was a big project overall, as we kind of have talked about going through the kind of the process, we did start with the switches, we then went to kind of like the Wi-Fi, we then went to the firewall. So we did break it down into these more manageable components, but to just kind of get on that road and start really kind of, I suppose, just in a way having fun with it. I think that's probably the best way forward. Just have fun with it, enjoy what you're doing, and it is daunting, but there are people out there like Redway that will help, and the benefits certainly outweigh any nervousness that I felt at the beginning. Now, looking back.
Great. Yeah, amazing. Well, thank you so much. I think that was beautifully said, Emily. It is daunting, right? These are massive projects. But once you get in and get started and realize the benefit it can have to your school and your students, and the impact is so big that it is absolutely worth it in the long run. So a big thank you to Emily and Lee for coming on the Meraki Unboxed podcast and talking to us today. It was an absolute pleasure, and wish you both the best of luck. So we're wrapping up another episode of the Meraki Unboxed podcast. Again, my name is Sammy Brenner. Thank you so much for joining today. Be sure to download, listen, subscribe. We have new content coming out about every 2 weeks, and we look forward to seeing you back here soon. Take care.